I will call the select board meeting for Tuesday, January 18th, 2022 to order. Due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, in accordance with Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, public bodies otherwise governed by the open meeting law are temporarily relieved from the requirement that meetings be held in public places, open and physically accessible to the public, as long as measures are taken to ensure public access to the body's deliberations through adequate alternative means. This meeting will be live on Zoom and Channel 8. The public may participate remotely by joining Zoom meeting ID number 897-9080-0793 or by calling 929-205-6099. For additional information about remote participation, please contact Carly Antonellis, Assistant Town Manager at atm.ayer.us or 978-772-8220 extension 100 prior to the meeting. First item up is the Pledge of Allegiance. I'll ask everyone to please stand and recite. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have any adjustments to the agenda for this evening?
I have none.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I've just asked that we table the recognition of Ms. Gabri to the February 1st meeting.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Seconded.
Okay. Roll call the vote. Select Person Livingston.
Yes. Aye.
Vice Chair says aye. The agenda is amended. Next item is announcements. We have one announcement this evening. On Wednesday, January 26, 2022 at 6 p.m., the town manager will make a presentation of the initial draft of the FY 2023 budget to the select board and finance committee. The public is encouraged to ask questions and offer input. For additional information, please visit the town's website at ayer.ma.us/budget. Picture didn't come up, Cindy, but it was a good attempt. All right. Next item we have on the agenda is public input. Is there anyone here for public input this evening?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Mr. O'Connor.
Good evening. I'd like to call attention to the two vacancies which currently have left the 5-member Finance Committee short of its full complement. At a recent meeting of the committee, Chairperson Patrick Diamond brought it up for discussion. He expressed concern about meeting a quorum requirement for upcoming meetings. With budget reviews and the upcoming budget forums, the Finance Committee serves a vital role for both review, consideration, and approval before its presentation to town meeting. As moderator, it is one of my duties to appoint members to the committee. As per the current bylaw, prospective candidates are to be interviewed by a 5-member screening committee. The preferred candidates would be forwarded to me for final appointment. In July and November, the town published notices of the vacancies on bulletin boards and social media. To date, I'm not aware of any interested candidates. It has been my mission to fill these vacancies while still adhering to the town bylaw. Sometimes, however, when a bylaw provides such specificity, it can serve to hinder the selection process and even discourage qualified candidates. As moderator, I will explore and propose simpler selection procedures and submit a warrant article for the spring annual town meeting. If there is anyone listening who is interested in serving on the committee or who may know someone who might be, please contact me at j.o'connor with one N at ayer.ma.us. Thank you. And I welcome comments from the select board.
Thank you, Jim. I'll actually comment as a former finance committee member that I spent many years on the committee. It is a wonderful way to help out the town. I learned so much in my time there. And I'll just offer at the end saying that our town is better with a full and strong finance committee to help out town meeting with their decisions.
Well, thank you. I do agree. I think we need to find a means to get a few candidates who may be interested but don't want to go through the interviewing process. The problem is because we do have a bylaw, I didn't feel it was within my authority to just go beside that and pursue another direction. But in the interest of the public budget forums and the process of review of the budget, I think we need to move rather swiftly to get some members appointed so that the committee is in full complement. Janice, do you have any? Janice, do you have any thoughts?
My recommendation is to just put another notice out and just simply putting it, are you interested in being, basically, are you interested in being in the FinCom? Contact with your email address and let the FinCom, meet with the person, make a recommendation to you and get them appointed. Seriously, I think that the wording of the notice was extremely intimidating, making it sound like they were, interviewing for this big job and everything, which, don't get me wrong, this is a big committee, to be in a very important committee, but I think it was quite intimidating. And I think a notice should just be, come on down, we need you. Simple. The previous town moderator worked with the finance committee, doing the interview, making the recommendation, because it ended up not being feasible. Why the bylaw didn't get fixed over the years, who knows? And it worked. We had it working, and I think we need to clean up the bylaw, but I think it's also, we need to just make it smoother. So that would be my thoughts.
Okay, thank you. Robert, I wanted to ask you, because you were present at that meeting when Chairman Diamond did bring that up and you had expressed some thoughts. Have you thought about it any further?
Mr. Moderator, respectfully, I would defer to the chair. Through the chair, may I respond to the moderator?
Yes, you may. I'm going to give you 1 minute because we do have a public hearing that we do want to open up as close to timely as possible, please.
Thank you. Yeah, Mr. Moderator, I was at that meeting when the FinCom did bring that up, and I encouraged Mr. Diamond and the committee to perhaps meet with you to discuss ways in which we could increase interest in folks to apply. So I encourage them to contact you.
Okay, I haven't heard from any of them, but I will pursue them directly because I think it's time that we get somebody appointed.
All right.
But thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jim. Is there anyone else for public input this evening? No? Okay, excellent. Thank you. The next item is a public hearing application for flammable and combustible liquids, gases, and solids license, General Law 148, Section 13, E&I Fitchburg Road LLC for 97 Fitchburg Road. Janice, would you mind reading the notice?
Town of Ayer, notice of public hearing, Ayer Select Board. The Ayer Select Board will be conducting a remote public hearing at 6:05 p.m. on Tuesday, January 18th, 2022, regarding an application by E&I Fitchburg Road LLC, 97 Fitchburg Road, Assessors Map 1, parcels 5 through 7, Ayer, Mass. The applicant is seeking a new flammable and combustible liquids, gases, and solids license for the storage of up to 73,500 gallons of propane and 165 gallons of methanol pursuant to Mass General Law 148, Section 13. For Zoom call-in information, please contact ATM at ayer.ma.us or 978-772-8220, extension 100. The name of the applicant is E&I Fitchburg Road, LLC, 97 Fitchburg Road, Air, Mass. 01432. Date of public hearing, Tuesday, January 18th, 2022. Time of public hearing, 6:05 p.m. Location of public hearing, remote public hearing held on Zoom. Meeting ID 897-9080-0793. Meeting materials and information may be obtained by contacting Carly Antonellis, Assistant Town Manager at ATM at ayer.ma.us or 978-772-8220, extension 100.
Thank you, Janice.
Mhm.
Who do we have this evening for the public hearing from E&I Fitchburg Road?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
Jody Amadin is who applied for the license on behalf of ENI. She's here, and I believe Chief Johnston also is on, and Chris Timela. He is with the project applicants.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Amadin, do you have a presentation or a walkthrough of the request?
I'll give you a brief overview. The land
Please.
license is required for any company that has propane bulk storage. It is part of the local and state license. You list all tanks and containers of a flammable nature that are on site. That is what I presented to Carly, along with a site plan of the approved location on Fitchburg Road.
All right. Thank you. Janice, do you have any questions to start?
So this is an existing place that's just asking to increase what they're already doing, correct?
No, this is a new land license. This is a brand new facility that's not yet been built. But this is part of the licensing process and permitting process, both locally and for state.
Okay, sorry about that. For some reason I got confused for a second there. And Chief Johnson, I mean, I lean towards Chief Johnson being the fire chief as to what's going on with that. So right at the moment, I really have no questions until I've heard from Chief.
Sure,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, please.
Sure. We've had part of a group of us from the town. We've had a couple site visits down on this project on Fitchburg Road. Energy North has all completed the fire safety analysis, which is required. And you know what that analysis certainly does is it offers up how that system will be built. They have redundant and automatic controls built in there, reducing the probability of any accident release. During this analysis too, there was also a water flow tested by municipal water. That flow actually exceeded the requirements of 750 gallons, which would be needed for this type of facility. And in the conclusion, they met all of the requirements that the state would require. And also the guidelines that we would follow, the National Fire Protection Agency, which is known as NFPA 58. They were in compliance with all of those codes. So we would have no issue with what they presented to us tonight.
Thank you, Chief.
You're welcome.
So I'll open it up to public questions or comments on the license, if there are any. And,
Sarah with me from Broughton Shirley Road.
hi, Sarah.
I submitted some questions. They kind of seem out of order right now. If you could, hold on just a second. Maybe I was hoping just to learn a little bit about the propane delivery process. There's two different, there's propane and then there's methanol being delivered. I was just wondering, do those get combined on the site?
I got a copy of your question about that. Methanol is, and The tanks themselves are roughly 11 feet in diameter, 47 feet long, but the methanol is stored in 55-gallon drums. And what the methanol is used for is to remove moisture from propane. So what happens is there is methanol added to the hose of when the transport offloads. It's pushed into the bulk facility it acts, for lack of a better way, like dry gas, like what you would put in gasoline for your lawnmower, et cetera, to avoid moisture problems at home delivery sites. Does that answer?
It gets me a little closer. Are you gonna be able to, like, when it gets delivered, is there, I'm gonna back up, I'm sorry. How about when the bobtail trucks arrive to fill up on the propane deliveries? How does that work? Do they go directly to the tanks? Like, I'm sorry.
It's okay. The transports are unloaded in one area and the bobtails unload in another. The bobtail, the bobtails will come in, they will connect their hoses, and they will turn on the facility to pump gas into their truck. They are in attendance the whole time. They're monitoring gauges of both the tank and the truck. And you also had a question about training of the drivers. All the drivers and people that touch propane in the industry are CTEP trained or CTEP certified. It's a certified employee program training that is recognized by most states, and Energy North has all of their bobtail drivers certified and trained in CTEP.
Can you tell me a little bit about what's in the 300 to 600 feet area around the filling station?
I'm going to ask Chris from our team, if Carly, if you'd let him screen share, he can.
Yes, please.
Put that up. Chris could put that up on the screen just to show everybody. We took a tax, I believe it's a tax map, but I'll let Chris describe that.
Sure, thanks, Judy. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, Chris Tamula, I'm a project manager with Green & Peterson, and our offices are located in 44 Stiles Road in Salem, New Hampshire. So I'm just going to share my screen here. Right now, I'm disabled to share my screen, so I need to be enabled to do that, if so.
Cindy or Carly?
Cindy, are you working on that, or?
It's all set.
Oh,
Sorry
I'm all
about
set
that.
now. Thank you. No problem.
Thank you, Cindy.
All right, so everybody can see my screen, I hope at this point.
Yes, thank you.
So what I have is in the foreground is a tax map, and then behind the tax map, I basically have just an area plan of the development. So what we did is we took the assessor's map and added a 300-foot radius around the entire property, and then we added a 600-foot radius around the entire property. And as you can see within this property limits, there's some commercial uses, and I think it's probably easier to see on the aerial plan. So on the aerial plan, basically this general area is the location of the propane tanks. So you have 99 Fitchburg Road development in the rear. The temple is located along the left-hand side. DW Motorsports, Eichel Industries, and Splash Products. These are all within the 300 to 600 foot radius that is shown on this plan. Obviously, there is the power line easement in the rear. I did not see any residential houses that are within this 300 to 600 foot radius either.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Actually, can I just, I was wondering just about those power lines that you, if you could go back to that map. If you can't pull it up, maybe just visually, like if you just remember the map that was there, yeah. Like there's, when you drive by on Fitchburg Road, towards the bottom of the map, it says Fitchburg Road relocation Route 2A. Somewhere along like the end of that New England Power Company property, there's the utility wires. And like from the street, you can't really tell where they are. Like, are the utilities within that those boundaries? And is
Sure,
that a problem?
Mr. Chairman, if I may answer that.
Yes, please.
Sure. So there is a 300-foot power line easement in the rear of the property here. The power lines basically essentially run through the middle of this power line easement, and the closest pole to our propane tanks are anywhere from 150 to 180 feet away from the actual pole. We did reach out to National Grid earlier on in the process. They had no issues with the location of the bulk propane facility. The tanks are outside of their easement line. They had no issues whatsoever.
Thank you. And I'm going to move on to my question for the fire department about the call fire response. Is that all right?
Yes, please.
Can you please explain what the Ayer Fire Department's call response would be if there was an incident on this property, and any incident, like, and how many firefighters are on duty in each shift to respond, and like how many would be needed from call and mutual aid resources? I don't have any understanding of the fire department, so I'm not looking for specific real numbers. I'm just looking for understanding of how the process works.
Sure, Mr. Chairman, I could answer that.
Yes, please, Chief.
Sarah, so what we have now is there's 3 firefighters 24/7. As of next month, there'll be 4 firefighters 24/7 on duty. So if there would be an incident at that facility, you would respond with the 4 firefighters right out the door. They would get there, say 60 seconds to get out, of the call, 60 seconds to get out. So within 4 minutes, let's say, you would be on scene. Depending on what the incident is, would require on what we would call for additional resources. That could be, so we have our original 4, our call department, depending on how many show out. If it's not enough to mitigate the incident, we would be able to call for mutual aid, which is assistance from other towns. And if it will become out of our scope, meaning a bigger incident, hazardous materials wise, than we would be able to handle, we would reach out to assistance for our District 6 hazmat team to respond. So it's just it's determined by what we find for a particular incident. But I can also add that we are trained in this type of stuff all the time to try to, if it's a valve that's leaking, to shut down the valve, if we were to push vapors away to get in there. So we're definitely trained to take care of these incidents.
I think the word call fire department kind of has made me nervous. Like the first time like October 13th, after the first public hearing, I began thinking about the term call fire department quite a bit. Like, I mean, I imagine these like call firefighters, like they're doing whatever they want in their own time, right? Like during the day. Like, am I visualizing this right? Like,
that is correct, Mr.
Okay.
Chairman.
I had a blank space there, so.
Oh,
Okay.
that is correct. So we always have 4 firefighters per shift, and then when there's a call, they get called back. Now, some of those come in a timely manner, and the call, you may get nobody to come back, you may get 12. It depends on the time of day. But it's not only the call firefighters, it's the firefighters that are off duty are able to come back. And I would say during the day, we get 7 or 8, but we certainly know in a short amount of time, if we need more help, we call out to our surrounding towns and they're able to come.
Okay, and how often is the Ayer Fire Department called to like be on this type of property, like for inspections and so forth?
So that particular answer is there is no requirement by law to show up, but generally we get to these businesses once a year, throughout town, not just propane facilities. And when we do that visit, that's with fire prevention, the building inspector, and the on-duty group. And we just do, some fire prevention regulations, make sure everything's up to code. And I would say so every 12 months or so that's something that occurs. It could be 12 to 15 depending on, but it's almost annually that it gets done.
I have 2 more questions. I'm working through them. And is this, once this license gets issued, is it a one-time license or do they come back at all?
Nope, nope. Once they issue the license, it's good for what they have for quantities on there. If they were to change that quantity, they would have to come back and amend the quantity that they would need for that particular license. And the only other issue, if it were to be sold or change names, they would have to come back and do the same thing if the company would be sold or something.
Come back to the fire department or come back to the select board?
It would have to come back and get a new license.
the select board.
Correct.
One more question about this. You said you answered one of my questions earlier, or somebody did, about there being enough water capacity.
Mhm.
Is there a limit? It made me think, is there a limit to the number of like propane storage that can be on the site or in town at all? Like there's 73,000 gallons that you're being asked to approve. Like, I mean, is there like liquor licenses? Like there's a cap?
Nope, there's no statute. It's only what the board chooses to regulate.
Okay, I think I'm done with the,
All right,
I
thank
could
you.
ask about zoning, but I think I'm done with my fire, thank you.
Okay, thank
Mr.
you,
Chairman?
Sarah. Pauline, you had your hand up. Thank you for your patience.
No worries, Scott. Thank you for recognizing me. I have fewer questions than Sarah, but I thank Sarah for her input. I think she had some very good questions. My questions are basically for Chief Johnston. And I think there might only be two, depending on his answers. But Chief, you mentioned federal regulations for these types of facilities. And frankly, I don't know what those are. And I appreciate that the fire department, as well as yourself, do and are fully trained. But this is a layman's question, if you don't mind. So this is an unmanned facility. There will be no Energy North personnel on site ever. The only ones who will be the tanker delivery drivers and the bobtail delivery drivers, I guess. I don't know what else to call them, who are responsible for ensuring the valves are closed and everything is secure before they depart the facility. What happens if something isn't secure? And please don't misunderstand my question. I'm not suggesting anybody is going to do something wrong, but any of us who have had propane tanks, even for a grill, know it's not the easiest thing to ensure security. So what are the safety measures in place, and how will they operate, and how will the department know of something just leaking? No explosion, just a leak. How does the department know?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, please.
Pauline, I can answer those a couple different ways. The systems included in the fire analysis, they include redundant and automatic manual controls for the valves that they have at that particular facility. And the only other way would be if there was a release of propane, people would smell that. There's an additive to make you smell that. So somebody would call the fire department or 911 to say, hey, we smell propane in that area. Unless Jody would have something more to add. Those are the two things I could recall.
Jody, do you have anything else?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
I would also like to say that the only time the valves are open is when there are people on site. So other than that, everything is in a closed and secure position.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I appreciate both. I appreciate Jody's response that everything is always in a closed position. But Tim, if I could come back to you.
Sure.
The odor is rotten eggs, as I understand it. And I appreciate that an odor would be expelled if a valve was not properly closed, as Jody suggests would happen. Who's going to smell it if nobody is there?
That would be maybe passerbyers, and some of that depends on, weather and atmosphere, where the vapor goes if it were to escape. I also might like to add too that, and I think this could be helpful for a lot of people, that we've had a facility just like this one, which is double the size since 2010 in there, and we've had 0 incidents. So at least from our perspective, having another facility like this in there, it's been very safe from the fire department's point of view. We haven't had any incidents to go down there to take care of.
Are you mentioning Lord and Oil by any chance?
That's the other facility. Yep.
Right. And I agree. They have been a very good corporate resident of the town. And I think the fact that they have personnel on site all day long changes their perspective, or my perspective of them versus this facility with no one there. I would feel 1,000% better if they just had someone on site to monitor things. We don't have that ability to require it. I don't believe, but if we did, I think that's worth exploring. The only other real question I have really, I suppose doesn't apply to me since I don't live over there, but the truck traffic, thanks to the planning board, is directed specifically to not use Groton Shirley Road. As a comparison, there is a limitation on tonnage for truck traffic on Columbia Street. Regularly, vehicles far over 2.5 tons use Columbia Street. I don't know, but I haven't seen anyone stop anyone from doing that. How, and I presume the residents of Groton Shirley Road will be on top of this, but how will the town regulate or monitor, is probably a better word, the truck traffic from using Groton Shirley Road? A sign is fine, but a sign doesn't stop a truck. And Chief Johnson, Tim, that's probably a more better question for Chief Gill, because I believe he's also online, but just a thought.
Yeah, whose jurisdiction would that fall under?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that come up at one of our other meetings, and I think Chief Gill's on the call too. And he explained what the process was, that you had to go through that. It's not as an easy process, and maybe Robert could do it also.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, please.
in the interest of time to the question, the enforcement agent would be the Air Police Department, and I'll speak to Chief Gill about the enforcement that was brought up.
Okay, thank you.
One last question, Mr. Chair, and I'll be very brief on this.
Yeah.
Well, it is a public hearing.
Oh, no,
A
sorry.
lot
I just was going to say, I do see one other person who's looking for speaking time. So I was just going to tell
Okay.
them, I'll get to them in one moment.
1 second. Several people asked how they could approach the selectmen if they could not attend the meeting tonight. And I told them to submit written comments to be, and ask that they be read at the hearing, which is an entirely appropriate process. Have any written comments been submitted today? That question would be to the town manager, since that's whose email I gave them. And are they going to be read if they were received?
Robert?
Mr. Chairman, to our records, there were no written comments submitted from the public, with the exception of the January 16th, 2022 letter from Ms. Withy to the select board, which we did respond to her questions in writing.
All righty then. Thank you so much. I'll unmute myself now, or
Okay.
mute myself. Sorry.
Thank you, Pauline. Ms. James, you would have a comment or a question?
Yeah, Edith Stephen, 93 Groton School Road. I live across from Groton Shirley Road, and we do have 18-wheelers go down there off of Groton School Road. So I don't know, I mean, I don't know what that would mean, other than they do travel down that road, so. Okay.
So I think from the town's part, and this would be to Chief Gill and also to town manager, we do need to look at how to enforce our regulations a little bit more. It's a good point on Columbia Street, which has the tonnage regulations. We do need to try and step that up as well as other items around town, please. All right. Any other questions or comments for the public hearing? Ms. Boise?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I grew up in Tewksbury in the late 1970s when the gas tank exploded. Several firemen were critically injured, as I recall, and it's left me with a lot of trauma around any propane. Apparently, the driver backed up. There wasn't time to call the fire department because it exploded because the back of his truck hit the valve or whatever he was filling or unloading propane. And people that grew up in the Merrimack Valley probably remember it because you probably had your house shaken off its foundation, as ours was several miles away. So what kind of safety measures? Is there going to be additional funding to the Neshoba Hospital for emergency burn treatment or any kind of emergency services that this company can provide?
Jody, you look like you have a response, please.
I'm happy to answer that. I am very familiar with the incident you're talking about.
Oh, yeah. Took me out of bed.
But we're not in the 70s anymore as far as technology and safety in the propane industry. And I do know what happened, and there was no crash protection. There were not the redundancies and the safeties that we currently have. There's no way for a truck to take out the loading stanchion like it did in that case based on the design we have. And even if it did, there's still redundant emergency shutoffs that would shut down all the flow of product in the plant as well as in the trucks. So I know going through what you've been through, it probably doesn't help, but I can tell you that the technology, especially since 2011, has changed our industry to make it so much safer. And I'm not sure if the chief wants to add anything with his experience.
So I would agree
Chief
with
Johnson?
Yeah, no, I would agree with what Jody has to say. And what we do is, I know everybody can Google something and see the worst case scenario. Of course, we don't want that. And based on the fire department's response, the way the safety analysis was done with the improvements of fire prevention, cell phones, people call in stuff early if they would smell the gas, so everything is mitigated in a fairly short amount of time. So I feel more than comfortable with where we're at. And any questions, I think I'll end with this. Any questions that we had over this process were all answered by Energy North in a timely and acceptable manner.
Can I just ask one more question? And I thank you for your patience.
Yes, please.
You talked about the abutting, like the temple, the Buddhist temple, and the surrounding industries. How far away is the closest residential? Where's the closest people where people are living? What's the closest? And would they be impacted if something catastrophic were to occur?
Chris, could you possibly bring the map back up?
Yes,
Thank
Mr. Chairman, just give me 1 second.
Yeah, no worries.
Mr. Chairman, while he's doing that, I could add to that. So if
Please.
we were to get a call based on it, we would take a look at it. Is it a leak? Is it something we can control? Is it just vapor? What kind of piping is broke? And then we would have what's called an emergency response guide that is not only used in this country, across Canada, that everyone would use it. And based on that, we would look at the chart of our distances that we would need to evacuate up to, if we think it's just a leak, or could there possibly be a fire and explosion. And I think James Brook Way is the closest residential building, starting at that corner of James Brook and Groton Shirley. Yep, right there.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I did a quick, just obviously, a distance here. So it looks like we're about 1,900 feet away from this closest residential house along James Brook Way from the approximate location of where the fuel tanks would be located.
Thank you.
Okay. And have those residents, do they know that you guys are going to put propane tanks that close to them?
Mr. Chairman, we did notify all the appropriate abutters during the planning board process. There were a substantial amount of abutters that commented and had come to the multiple planning board hearings that we have attended. So I believe we have done our due diligence, notifying the appropriate residents.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's all the questions I had. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other questions?
I wanted to ask a question about the address.
Yes, Sarah.
The application says 97, and the planning board just approved a process for 99 Fitchburg Road. So can you reconcile that for me?
I'll go to Carly for the answer, please.
Hi, thanks, Mr. Chair. So I did talk to our building commissioner on this today, because 3 parcels were being combined, he thought originally he would number it 97, and that's what he told the applicant. But during the planning board process, you know, in hearing from residents in the area, they were actually thinking of switching it to the Brian Shirley Road address. There was a lot of back and forth related to the address. So after the application was submitted, the building commissioner had made the decision to make it 99. And subsequently, all the planning board site plan approval is referenced as 99 Fitchburg Road. I talked to town council today. There's no issue. I was gonna speak up before the motion, so long as your motion states 99 Fitchburg Road.
Thank you, Carly. Any other questions or comments? Okay.
I don't feel comfortable with that answer. I'm so sorry. Is there anyone else? You know what? I'm not sure what else I can say. I'm sorry.
Janice, any follow-up questions?
No, I think everything's been covered.
Yeah, I agree. I understand the hesitation, but I think with the way the propane industry is now and the safety is in place in the fire department that we have, I think good hand.
Here's my issue. Here's it very specifically.
Yes, Sarah.
All right, ENI Fitchburg Road LLC was incorporated or was organized in Massachusetts in 12/7/2021. And the planning board decision was issued on 11/23. So like, I mean, there's something, the number doesn't line up.
Carly?
Mr. Chairman, if I may try to resolve a little bit of this, if I may.
Sure, please.
So during the planning board process, there was some discussion on the address of the property. And my understanding is that the address was sort of in flux because there were 3 parcels that were being combined into one. And ultimately, we were going to rely on the town, whether it was working with the fire chief on the 911 address or the assessor's office or the building department. We're fine with whatever address the town deems. We just need to basically get some guidance from the town during that process. If that clarifies things a little bit.
Yeah, thank you, Carly.
Yeah, and I did clarify with the building commissioner in conjunction with the fire chief today. We met this morning with the town planner and the building commissioner confirmed it would be 99 Fitchburg Road.
Okay, so I think to Sarah's question is regarding the dates in which the planning board decision was in November, but the LLC was incorporated in December. That was just to modify the address. Yes, no?
I actually can't speak on that specifically, possibly Jody could, but I know with the site plan, it stays with the site. If it changes owners or it's incorporated, that doesn't affect the approved site plan. Just
Okay.
it's by address property.
We
I'm so sorry. Yeah.
Jody, please.
We learned during planning that during the consolidation that the address would change. My experience in going forward, especially as you take a local permit to the state, if you have the wrong addresses, it gets very confusing. I reached out in December, or our team reached out in December, and we were told that it would be 97, but I understand that has changed. So I filled everything out for 97. Not to be deceptive, I was just trying to avoid having to come back to the town and ask for something from the town before we submitted to the state. The state can be they are very detailed about that. So I'm sorry to have caused this confusion. I was just trying to avoid it.
All right. Thank you, Jody. Sarah, does that answer your question?
There's still like questions, honestly. I was looking at the GIS today and they were under 0 Fitchburg Road. So like, I don't know if you can resolve this tonight. I'm just saying that there are like questions.
So
I
those might be questions
answers.
for the planning board. This is really for the license itself. So I think that's more of a planning board question. Carly?
And just
I can go.
quickly, until the building commissioner and the fire chief assign the number, if it doesn't have a specific number, everything is referenced as 0 until it's assigned a number by the building department.
Okay.
So that's probably why you see that. And the GIS records come off the local deeds that are recorded with the Middlesex Registry of Deeds. Those aren't updated to our system simultaneously. We try to keep up on it monthly, but so that may be the lag in the GIS system.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments on the license? No? Okay. If Janice,
Mr.
if you
Chair?
want to make a motion.
Sorry, I had my hand up for a second.
Oh,
Pauline
sorry.
again. That's all
I
right.
think your hand's
It's
been up
not
the whole
easy.
time. Sorry, apologize.
It's all right. No worries, not easy.
Go right ahead.
Following up on Sarah's point, I believe, but the chairman of the planning board is on the call, so he could confirm. Planning board closed its public hearing and site review plan on November 23rd, but perhaps he could address the number of the street so that everything goes smoothly in the future, because there has been, as I understand it, some discussion about what is the proper address. If you issue a license at an address that doesn't exist, you know that license doesn't exist.
Carly first, and then Jeff, if you're available for comment.
Mr. Chair, I spoke with the chairman of the planning board this morning, and then I subsequently met with the town planner and the building commissioner and the fire department on this. I don't know that it's necessary. Of course, Mr. Chairman Tillotson, if he wants to jump in, but we had the same exact conversation this morning regarding the address was in flux from the building department.
Okay. Jeff, have anything you'd like to add?
Mr. Chairman, thank you for asking. And through you, Ms. Antonellis has taken care of, has said all that needs to be said on the issue. I'd also like to add that the applicant was did a very good job coming to the planning board, came to multiple meetings, went to multiple site walks, and responded to all the concerns brought by the residents, and actually agreed to almost all of them. I think all of them, in short, during the hearing process we had. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Jeff. Anything else? Last call? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, can I just add one more thing?
Yes, Chief, please go ahead.
Carly, is the number going to change? I just looked up KTR is 99 Fitchburg Road. They already have an address, right? For sure, they're 99. Did Charlie say he wanted to make it 97? Because we certainly can't have two.
No, he didn't say he wanted it 99, and that was as of like 3 o'clock this afternoon.
Okay, because we could potentially have 299 Fitchburg roads, because I'm looking at KTR on the map. Does that make sense to you? No. Jody, do you recall anything? I know this came up at the planning board meeting because that intersection is a little difficult because that used to be Fitchburg Road back in the day.
I just knew there was discussion that it would be changing, but nothing finalized at in those meetings.
Carly, can Charlie change the number at any time?
Yeah, he
Okay.
can.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you,
Mr.
Mr.
Chair,
Chair.
Yes, Janice.
I got to admit, I have a headache over this issue now. And now we
Join
have
the
the fire
club.
chief telling us that there's already an address at whatever number he gave. And should this remain as 97? And evidently the paperwork that E and I have filled out is 97. So I hate to say this, but I'm asking for this to be continued until the next board meeting while everyone figures out what the address is.
I completely agree with you.
And when they come back, and when we come back, I would like the building commissioner to be here and to definitively, no ifs, ands, or buts about it, tell us final answer, what the address of this place is. Other than that, I have no issues with this licensing.
Yeah, thank you, Janice. I agree. Everything seems to be kosher except for the address, which there's some confusion on. So when's our next meeting, Robert?
February 1st, I think it is.
Mr. Chair, it
February
would be a motion to continue the hearing to February 1st at 6:05 PM.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
I make a motion that this public hearing be continued to February 1st at 6:05 PM.
I will second the motion. Roll call the vote. Select Person Livingston.
Aye.
Vice Chair says aye. So we are continued till February 1st at 6:05 PM. And at that time, we'll have hopefully the correct address and all of the corresponding paperwork will line up with said address. Okay. So thank you very much, everyone. We don't need to close the public hearing because we're continuing through the first. So we'll move on with the agenda items.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yep, thank you both for coming. We'll see you in a few weeks.
Yep, good night.
Good night. Next item up is Susan Copeland, Town Clerk, opening of the annual town election. Good evening, Susan.
Hello, good evening. How is everyone?
Hello.
Lovely.
I'm here because it's town election time. So I'm here to respectfully ask the board to call the election open with the nominations. We can start the nomination process. The nomination papers will be available upon your vote tonight, starting tomorrow. The last day to request nomination papers will be Friday, March 18th at 12 p.m. at the clerk's office. And the last day to submit the nomination papers is going to be Tuesday, March 22nd, 2022 at 5 p.m. The last day to register to vote for both town election and town meeting will be on Tuesday, April 5th at 8 p.m. If you are not already registered to vote, I always like to add that part in. And also this evening, along with reading the offices that'll be vacant on the ballot, we will also be having a ballot question, which is in respects to the 3-member cemetery commission. It's a 2-part process. We did at the October meeting approve for the select board to appoint the 3-member cemetery commission. And now this is the secondary part, which is the ballot question. So that will also be on the ballot this year as well. And as always, I look forward to many, many people taking out nomination papers and getting involved in our town government. It is rewarding. That's all I got to say, Mr. Hood. Take it away.
All right, thank you. The annual town election will be held on Tuesday, May 10th, 2022 from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. in the 2nd floor, Great Hall, 1 Main Street in Ayer, Massachusetts. Nomination papers for the following offices are now available as they will appear on the ballot. Assessor, 1 position for a 3-year term. Board of Health, 1 position for a 3-year term. Commissioner of Trust Funds, 1 position for a 3-year term. Constable, 1 position for a 3-year term. Library of Trustee, 1 position for a 3-year term, 1 position for a 1-year term. Park Commissioner, 1 position for a 3-year term, 1 position for a 1-year term. Planning Board, 1 position for a 3-year term. Regional School District Committee, 1 position for a 3-year term. Select Board, 1 position for a 3-year term. Moderator, 1 position for a 3-year term. Nomination papers can be requested from and submitted to the town clerk's office, 1 Main Street, Ayer, Massachusetts, during regular business hours. Last day to request nomination papers is Friday, March 18th, 2022 at 12 p.m. The last day to submit nomination papers is Tuesday, March 22nd, 2022 at 5 p.m. Ayer Town Meeting voted at the October 2021 Fall Town Meeting to authorize the creation of an appointed cemetery commission subject to approval by the voters at the next annual town election. The ballot question will read, shall the town vote to have its select board appoint a 3-member cemetery commission? Yes or no?
Very good. Thought you were going to lose it at the end there.
Oh, the cemetery tripped me up.
That was tricky.
The soft C.
Mr. Chair,
Janice,
I make a motion to open the nomination process for the annual town election offices. A ballot question to appear on the ballot is read by the chair.
I will second. Roll call the vote. Ms. Livingston.
Aye.
Vice Chair says aye. The election is open.
Okay.
Right. And the
Anything
clerk's
else this
office
evening?
will be, the clerk's office will be open tomorrow morning at 8 a.m., ready for all the people that will be in line to pick up their nomination papers.
You think they're going to camp out early?
I'm hoping. One of these years. This has
We
got to
all
be
are.
it. Feel good.
You're so funny.
All right. Thank you, Susan. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, guys. Have a great night.
Have a good one.
Next item on the agenda is Dan Manshalkwick, Director, and Mark Wetzel, Special Projects Manager from the DPW. Evening, gentlemen.
Hey, good evening, board members. So yeah, we have 2 items today. The first item I'll take care of, and then Mark will jump in on the second.
All right, excellent.
Yep, the first item is vote to authorize usage of ARPA funds for Spectacle Pond Water Transmission Main Project. I'll give a quick presentation on this. But basically, the Capital Planning Committee met on December 15th, and they discussed funding for the project. And they passed a motion requesting the select board use ARPA funds. So Carly, if I can share my screen, make sure I can. Share, here we go. Okay, here we go. So you remember I put together a similar presentation where when you voted on the Westford Road sewer replacement. So this project here, Spec Pond Water Transmission Main. So our Spectacle Pond water treatment plant is located where my cursor is in this area. And we have one transmission main that goes cross country and eventually gets to Willow Road and also connects to New England Way. So it's our only transmission line from the plant. So all the water that we're sourcing at the plant goes through this transmission main. And in this circled area I've highlighted is where we have an issue on the transmission main. So the transmission main in this area with the green highlight has corrosion issues, and we identified this, let's see, back in April of 2020 of last year, I guess, April 2021 at the culvert crossing. So we had an emergency repair on the water main. It was a challenging repair, excuse me, due to the depth and the water main size being 16-inch. The break analysis identified pinhole leaks, which are due to external corrosion, as I mentioned. And so we hired CDM Smith to perform an engineering evaluation and alternative analysis. And based on their analysis, the budget for the project to rehab the main in this section, the corroded portion, is about $600,000, which includes engineering, permitting, and construction. As you'll notice, it is near wetlands and a culvert crossing, so there is permitting involved here. As I mentioned, the criticality of the location is high. It's our main transmission line from Spec Pond Water Treatment Plant. If nothing is done, there could be future, or there probably will be future emergency repairs and possible service interruptions, and it may require us to use our emergency interconnection with Devens or Littleton if we can't produce enough water to keep up with demand from just our Grove Pond plant. So as I mentioned, DPW requested 600,000 through the capital planning process. And during the capital planning committee meeting, they had a discussion and decided to request the select board authorize the use of ARPA funds. And this was kind of taking in consideration the executive by board's vote to consider ARPA funds during the capital planning process. And this is a slide I had up last time, but ARPA funds, they're federal stimulus aid funds for the COVID-19 pandemic, which can be used on water, wastewater infrastructure. So the town is going to be allotted almost $2.5 million, and the select board already authorized up to 700,000 for the Westford Road sewer replacement. So this would be a new project, Spectacle Pond water main transmission rehabilitation for up to 600,000. And that's my presentation. So if you want to have a discussion on utilizing ARPA for this project.
Okay, yeah, so as a representative for the select board on the executive by board, we looked at using ARPA funds, given the scope that these were available to be used for, to use on water and sewer projects for two reasons. One is the size of the water sewer projects that we do have that need to be done, and the timing of the funding around those so that they can be done sooner than later. So that was the methodology behind the by board decision. Janice, any questions?
No, I think that this is a good idea. I just got to say that I feel like I have talked about Spec Pond for a long time, and I just feel like, is it ever done? No?
Someday. It just keeps getting better.
Almost.
I mean, every time I think that's going to be the last of it, you guys come back and say, so this needs to be done. I mean, I'm starting to get like Pavlov's dog when you mentioned Spec Pond, get a twitch in my eye and everything. So, but that being said, no, I think that's a perfect usage for the ARPA fund.
All right, excellent. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion that the select board vote authorize the usage of up to $600,000 of ARPA funds for the Spectacle Pond water transmission main project.
I will second. Roll call the vote. Select Person Livingston.
Aye.
Vice Chair says aye. It is approved.
Okay, thank you. And Mark has a presentation on the next item.
All right, thank you, Dan. Evening, Mark.
Good evening. It's really exciting to be here. Glad I got to hear all the 99 versus 97 discussion.
Don't even start, Mark.
No, this is a pretty exciting project, and I'll give you I'll run through a presentation and give you a sort of an overview. But I think this is something that really improves the town and is a long time coming. So let me share my screen here. And see if that's working. There we go. So everyone see that screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. So what I want to present tonight is we received a grant for 50% of this project from the Department of Conservation and Recreation for an Urban and Community Forestry Challenge Grant. It was about a $20,000 project, so we got a $10,000 grant, and we funded another $10,000 out of our tree warden budget. We hired a company called the Davy Resource Group. They've done a whole bunch of these. They're a national company. I'll tell you right there, I was pretty impressed with their staff. Very responsive, very professional. They did a great job. So you may have seen them out wandering around town in I think they were doing October, November, and they did a tree inventory. We're get to some of that. But anyway, so what is a tree management plan? So basically, the tree management plan inventoried town maintained trees, and those are ones that are within the road right of way. So if you have a tree on your front lawn that's 10 or 15 feet off of the edge of pavement, it's not a town tree, that's your personal tree. But there are trees that are within the right of way that do appear to be in front of people's houses, or between the sidewalk and the road, or on the backside of sidewalks. We also looked at some of the town parks and some of the public buildings. They're specially trained arborists. They go around and they collect the tree location, the type, the size, the age, if there's any defects, and if there's any risks related to those defects. And then they put all that into a computer. They also use that information based on the quantity and the size and the age and the type to identify the function and benefits of the public tree resources. And then based on that, they come up with a management plan that the DPW and the tree warden and the town can use in the future to prioritize tree maintenance and planning and prepare budgets for future tree maintenance work. So why is this important? As probably most of you know, our tree management has been reactive. So we wait until a tree's about to fall down, or a tree does fall down, before we actually do anything to it. We don't have a tree pruning program. We don't have a tree planting program. So the idea behind this is, let's be proactive and come up with a management plan so that we protect our trees, increase diversity, and protect our other public infrastructure that might get damaged. So why are trees important? So there's a lot of environmental benefits, and I'll show you some of that. Economic benefits with respect to property values and the nature of the town, and then social benefits. Just walking around town, seeing how nice the streets look, how nice the trees are, providing shade, providing places for people to congregate. And then tree hazard results in property damage, power outages, traffic delays, and public safety concerns. We do have a lot of issues with trees falling across the road and creating power outages, which once that happens, then you've got to call in National Grid. They bring out all their crew, and it can take hours and hours before we get power restored. And I think Selectman Hood, you guys out on your road seem to be getting the brunt of a lot of the power outages. And
we have a long history of that, yes.
It takes quite a while to get the power back on. So the tree inventory in September, October, the arborist went around and they collected the information. As they collected it, they put it into tablets and it uploaded into a GIS system. So the data that they collected included the specific location, the type, and this was going back to my high school biology days, where you have this species, genus, and family of each tree, the size, and then based on the size, they estimate the age. They note any defects in the tree, what the condition overall of the tree is, and then if there's any infrastructure conflicts, such as proximity to power lines, or causing problems with the sidewalk, or some other potential conflicts. So then they take all that information and they start putting a report together. And so this map showing the town shows all the trees that they inventoried. There's a few areas that you'll note that they didn't inventory. One is Littleton Road, because that's a state maintained road and we can't really do much maintenance on that. There were a couple locations that they looked at, primarily along in front of the Devon's Crest area, but not the whole street. A little bit more on Fitchburg Road also. The blue dots, and we'll get into that in a little more detail. So the green dots are the trees they inventoried. The blue dots are potential tree locations. So as they went around town marking where trees were, they also looked at places where it would be beneficial to plant some trees. And then they have a lot of statistics on the number of trees, so you can see they collected information on where stumps are. And they broke it down based on street trees or parks. And there's a whole bunch of analysis of what types of trees we have, what some of the issues may be with diseases and pests. Do we have a good diversity? What's the age of the trees? And so all this information goes into the management plan. This is a pretty exciting, you can tell I get excited by software things. It's a pretty exciting program that comes with this study. It's called Tree Keeper software. And so basically it's a GIS system that shows the locations of all the trees they inventoried and the sites for the planting sites they inventoried. And you can click on each one of those dots and get some information. So here's an example. I clicked on it. Let's see, where did I do that one? I think that's Nashua Street. And yeah, and it's 9 Nashua Street. It's a sugar maple. You can see it's got an ID number. It doesn't have any conflicts with overhead utilities. It's not a multi-stem tree. It's 32-inch, fair condition. Could use some pruning. And then they have a track rating, which is the hazard rating, and that's low. So that's the kind of information they have for all of the trees in here. And as I mentioned, the green are the existing trees, the blue are the potential planting sites, and then the brown are the stumps that haven't been removed. And then you can do some other things with turning on different backgrounds, and so it's a little more visual. You can see where the trees are and where they are with respect to houses and things. And then you can go in and filter different information and highlight. So in this case, I highlighted all the trees that have poor condition, and those are shown in yellow. We can filter with a whole bunch of different criteria and use that to identify what trees we want to prioritize for our management plan. And then we can also do some custom reports, and I just really started getting under the hood of this. So I haven't really mastered it, but we can go in and say, okay, where are all the high hazard trees located with respect to power lines, and then we can also use this tool to come up with our annual tree management scope. And I mentioned the environmental benefits, and so one of the things that this software does is it looks at the types of trees, the location of the trees, the amount of canopy cover, and then calculates what the environmental benefit is based on greenhouse gas, water benefits. It reduces stormwater runoff and pollution, energy by creating shade and reducing the heat island effect, air quality, and then also property value benefits. And this is just another one of the graphs that's in the report that shows the annual environmental benefits of the public trees. And then they also have risk ratings and other means of prioritizing what your maintenance program is. So for instance, the extreme and high risk trees would be what would be attacked early in the tree management program. But we would also mix in some of the other lower priority, which have more green benefits, such as planting trees and what they call young tree training. So I'll get a little bit more into the recommendations, but this is sort of the idea behind doing this plan. We have the urban forest management plan. We want to fund that, and then have a dedicated commitment to doing this on an annual basis. And the way over on the left, you can see Tree City USA. And I don't know if you notice when you drive into certain towns, they may have a sign at the entrance of the town that says, Tree City USA. And it's actually I looked into a little bit, and it's not that challenging to get that designation. And I think that's a goal that the town ought to have. There's basically a 4-step process and you apply for it. But if we follow the recommendations in this plan, and with one additional recommendation, which is to have some sort of an Arbor Day event, then we could very easily become a Tree City USA. And I think that's a good goal for the town. So the recommended management plan includes a number of items: priority tree pruning, priority tree removal, doing further inspections and evaluations, having a routine inspection program, a routine pruning program, young tree training. And I didn't really know what that was, and got more information out of the report. Basically, what you're trying to do is when you plant new trees, you want to make sure that you're training it to grow in the proper direction, proper form. So you might trim off certain outshoot branches, or stake it up so that it's growing in the right direction. And so there's a whole process of training the young trees. And then also stump removal and tree planting. What's interesting is in the last couple, well, since we started the Youth Works program, I've made it a goal to do some tree planting. And believe it or not, it was hard to locate spots to plant trees. So I would put it in the budget, but then request information of where people wanted trees planted, and I wouldn't get a lot of input. So with this program, we can include that in Youth Works program, and the kids can go out and plant trees. And I think that's a really good activity for them. So the what comes out of the plan is they prioritize the different activities and put a account and a cost to that. And they, as you can see, over 10 years, the estimated cost to do all this is about $1.4 million. It's quite a bit of money. Some of that, as we get going, is something that the DPW can take on as a task for doing some routine inspections, some of the pruning, as we talked about, new tree planting. And so it looks like a pretty big number, and that's over a 10-year period, and that would be adjusted every year. So so I worked with Dan, and we looked at what we would propose for the FY23 budget for the tree management program. And so we have, right now, we have for this type of work, and again, it's on a reactive basis instead of proactive basis, we carry about $30,000 for this type of work, and we hire a local tree contractor to do that. So when I worked with Davey Resource Group, I said, well, I don't think we're going to go for, $150,000 the first year. Let's pick a reasonable number and a reasonable scope of work, and come up with some with a budget that we can get approved and is affordable. So and then I pulled out, so we came up with $65,000, but about 15,000 of that we can put into the Youth Works program to do the tree planting. And so so we're proposing a $50,215 tree budget, in addition to some of the other ancillary items in the tree budget. But that would start this program off. So the implementation, number one, is support the proposed FY23 tree management budget. Based on that, the DPW would develop a specific work plan that would detail the tree maintenance work, and then we'd get bids from qualified contractors, and also determine what tree management activities the DPW staff can perform, and provide training and equipment. I think we have most of the equipment we need to do some initial tree management work until we actually get the training. One of the things that I've talked with the fire chief about is trying to find a bucket truck that can be used both by the fire department and the DPW to do work. They need one to do their fire alarm maintenance, and they usually borrow one from Devon's when they do it. But he's been looking at seeing if we can joint purchase that type of equipment and use it with the fire department and the DPW. Integrate the tree planting into the DPW Youth Works program. Evaluate the need for a tree management work group or advisory committee, and I have a little bit more on that. Train the tree warden, DPW staff in tree inspections and hazard evaluations. Identify and apply for related grants, and update the tree management plan annually. Oh, I didn't, I had something that was, I went over with the, we have a loose tree management work group that we had a meeting last week and I went through this presentation. It's not a formal group. It's just some people that have expressed some interest in getting involved in a tree management. And so I looked at formalizing that group, and that's one of the requirements for becoming a tree city, is to have a tree management advisory board or tree management committee, some sort of a public group that would have an advisory capacity to the tree warden and the DPW. And there's some specific requirements that you would have making sure you have members of the Conservation Commission, Planning Commission, have some local residents or members at large. And they would primarily approve this program and promote it as it moves forward. And then there would also be the need to develop a public shade tree ordinance or bylaw. There's a lot of examples of those types of tree ordinances. One of the things that we don't do in Ayer is the Mass General Laws is pretty specific on tree management requirements, and we don't follow all those. For instance, when you cut down a large shade tree, you're supposed to have a tree hearing. And I know in my town they do. I think I see in the local paper, Shirley has tree hearings. I think Groton has tree hearings, and that's something that we haven't done. And primarily because we wait till the trees fall down before we cut them down. And so just having a more formal program on how we do the maintenance, I think, is a benefit to the town. Any questions?
Yeah, actually, so just a quick question on, you mentioned having a hearing for the trees. That only be for the shade trees that are on town jurisdiction coming down?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, some trees, if they're in the wetland resource, if they're private trees, but they're in the wetland resource area, they're supposed to have some sort of a permit from the Conservation Commission to work in the buffer zone. I know in the town, I live in Reading, and in Reading, and I was on the Conservation Commission, we have what's called a minor project provision, so that if people want to cut down trees in their yard that are within the buffer zone, they don't need to go through the whole Conservation Commission's approval process. They basically submit what's called a minor project permit application, and the administrator approves that and inspects it. So there's not any sort of a formal process other than it's documented.
All right, thank you. Janice, any questions?
I have none.
Okay. So Mark, you're just looking for our support for this in the budget?
I just wanted to give you an idea of what the DPW has been doing with this. You know, this was a grant application that I started over a year ago. We got a little sidetracked with COVID on getting the grant award. And once we got the report, I was really impressed with the report. It's, you know, I know how to cut down trees, but I don't know a lot about how to inspect them and evaluate them. I learned a lot from reading the report. I've got to get some copies printed up, and we'll make sure there's a copy in town hall, a copy in the library, and at the DPW. I just think it's a really good benefit for the town. We're always trying to improve the community, and I think trees are a big benefit to the community. We're going to have some new trees planted on East Main Street as part of the East Main Street project, and as we go down West Main Street, we'll do some plantings. So I just think it's a huge benefit to the town, and just wanted to present the report and explain what it's all about, and hope that we'll continue with implementing this.
All right. Thank you, Mark. I think it was a good presentation, very informative, and I think it's a good first step. So, excellent. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mark.
All right. So thank you both, gentlemen. That's all we have from the DPW this evening. Next item is opening of the April 25th, 2022 annual town meeting warrant.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Pompriand.
members of the select board, and you have the memo in the packet where per the town's budgets calendar, we're respectfully requesting that the board officially open the 2022 annual town meeting warrant to take place on Monday, April 25th of 2022. The memo serves more to just highlight the deadlines for the select board's budget and town meeting schedule. The deadline for all warrant articles will be noon on Friday, April 1st. The deadline for citizens petitions will also be noon on April 1st to the town clerk. The select board will ultimately meet to finalize and approve the warrant at your meeting on April 5th of 2022 at 6 p.m. So as has been past practice, looking for a formal vote to open the warrant.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Livingston.
I make a motion that the select board open the annual town meeting warrant for the town meeting to occur on April 25th, 2022.
I will second. Roll call the vote. Select person Livingston.
Yes.
And the vice chair says aye. Town meeting warrant is open. Excellent. Thank you. So now we'll move into town manager's report.
Mr. Chairman, members of the select board, good evening. In the interest of time, I'll be very brief on the administrative update. You have all of the warrants that were approved since the board last met on December 21st. Largely, our focus has been and continues to be the development of the budget. And in the interest of time, unless there's any specific administrative questions from members of the select board, I'll move right into the action items.
No questions from me. Thank you.
The first item is an appointment. I hereby recommend that the Ayer Select Board vote to appoint Mr. Roger Martell as the Ayer Housing Authority Tenant Board Member for a term to expire in May of 2026. And you have in your packet the letter from the Housing Authority to the town clerk requesting that appointment.
Any questions or concerns, Janice?
No, none at all.
Okay. I'll make a motion to appoint Mr. Roger Martell as the Ayer Housing Authority Tenant Board Member for a term to expire on May of 2026.
Seconded.
Roll call the vote. Select person Livingston.
Aye.
Vice Chair says aye. Excellent.
Okay, the next item, the FY23 budget update. I will be brief as we're meeting on Wednesday, the 26th at 6 p.m. on Zoom for the first public budget forum, which will be a joint meeting of the Select Board and the Finance Committee. I'll make a brief presentation of the budget as where it stands at this point, specifically highlighting the revenues and the major budget drivers. As everyone is aware, the budget is a process, and this is just the beginning of that in terms of things are subject to change. Per the schedule on January 14th, I did transmit that draft 1 budget to you as well as to the members of the Finance Committee. It's also posted on the town's website, www.ayer.ma.us/budget. And that's going to be the repository, as the case was last year, for all materials related to the budget, including subsequent drafts. So I look forward to Wednesday with the board and the FinCom for their questions, and also for the public's questions and input. It is mandatory for all department heads to be in attendance. So we'll have everyone here next Wednesday at 6 for any questions, input, comments on the budget. And then we'll do a second forum on March 30th, later in the process as we move forward. So in the interest of time, unless there's any initial questions from the select board, I'll hold off till Wednesday on the budget.
I have no
Okay.
questions.
I was able
Last,
to dig deep into it, so I'm sure I'll have questions though.
okay, yes. The next item, just very briefly, is the Wild and Scenic River Update Report. And the town's representative to the Wild and Scenic Stewardship Council is Miss Beth Sudemeyer, who asked for this brief update to the board. So in your packet, you have an update that was put together by the Stewardship Council that's also available to the public, as Ayer is a member of this group. And I just want to highlight that in the report, the Ayer Conservation Commission received $4,800 from the council for a education signage program for waterways and ponds. And I know that the Conservation Commission is working on the implementation of that project. Also want to highlight on the second page of the report, and I'm just being very brief, there are continued efforts by the council to try to identify a potential suitable canoe launch on the Nashua River in Ayer. And of course, there's some further challenges there with the wildlife refuge and so forth in that area. But just so the board is aware, it's an Ayer-specific topic that they have been discussing. Obviously, as there's further developments, it would be coming before the appropriate boards, and potentially this one as well as it moves forward. Lastly, they have another round of grant applications that are due February 1st. And I know that all of our departments are aware. It's unclear at this time if departments are applying for a grant, but we did want to mention that the grants are open through February 1st for this round. And lastly, the Stewardship Council meets every third Thursday of the month at 7, currently on Zoom. These meetings are open to the public, and they have a website, which is www.wildandscenicnashuarivers.org. So again, if there are any questions on that, again, all the materials in your packet. It's just a brief update that the council is making to all of the member community select boards.
All right.
Okay. The last item comes from the Capital Planning Committee. As a recommendation of the Capital Planning Committee to the Select Board to consider the authorization of up to $65,000 from the UDAG funds for the completion of Depot Square. And you have in your packet the presentation that was made to the Capital Planning Committee on this project. You also have in your packet the meeting minutes from the Capital Planning Committee, where this was submitted as a capital request. And through those discussions, it was felt that this particular project really spoke to the spirit of UDAG funds, which is economic development and infrastructure related to that. So a recommendation was made from the Capital Planning Committee to come before the Select Board for your consideration to authorize the $65,000. The last two pieces is some of the components to finish this project have to be custom ordered. And there are delays as a result of the pandemic, as Capital has been experiencing with vehicles and so forth. So if this was to go through the capital process, it would obviously have to wait until after town meeting approval. And there is concern on the delays as the target date to complete this project of Depot Square is September 1st. So that was also factored into it. So I will defer to the chair, who's also the chair of the Capital Planning Committee, if I missed anything, but we're respectfully asking you to authorize $65,000 from UDAG for the completion of Depot Square.
Yeah, thank you, Robert. So I'll add a little more context. The money would go towards purchasing the waiting shelter, benches, and trash receptacles, and then also some landscaping. When we had the presentation for capital planning, the waiting shelter was something that there was an initial estimate that was received in. And then when they got an updated estimate, I think it was a matter of 3 months later, the price had actually increased about $2,000, partly in part to inflation and supply chain issues. So I recommended that we discuss looking at UDAG funds, which is in the spirit of UDAG funds for urban development, but also it would eliminate the potential price increases if we had to wait until July to actually order the shelter, and then possibly with work ahead. So hopefully in the springtime, when the ground is ready for installation of these items plus landscaping, the funds and plan would be in place at that point. Any questions?
I think it sounds good. So I'm in agreement.
Mr. Chair, Pauline has her hand up.
Oh, sorry. Thank you, Carly. Pauline, yes. Pauline?
Sorry, I unmuted myself. I appreciate your concerns about the price increases, and I did not bring this up at capital planning specifically because I knew the process would continue. But since you are looking at this from a UDAG expenditure, which is taxpayer money, I would like you to review the costs specifically regarding the trash receptacles at $900 each. I'm sure we can get cheaper ones. And the benches also at $900 plus each. As a suggestion, we received from a Green Communities grant, those big belly trash cans on Main Street. Why not consider that? I believe those are free, which would save a fair amount of money. In fact, it might even save enough for the waiting structure, because the three trash receptacles at $900 each is $2,700. I don't know about the benches, but there are environmentally preferred benches which are made from recycled materials. We don't need to spend $1,000 a bench, in my view. And I think if you're going to ask taxpayers to pay for this, you should look at the cost factors a little closer. Just my view.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. And all of those prices are listed on the original submission from the Economic Development Office.
Okay, thank you. So we've recommended the 65,000. So on the planning side, and Carly, if I remember correctly from Capital, you had assisted with pulling some of the numbers together with economic development.
Yeah.
Even if we were to authorize the usage of UDAG, the materials that we source with that could differ from the original presentation on capital. So we could look at different benches and different trash receptacles.
Yeah, those were, what we did was just took what DPW uses. So because we wanted to match Main Street for trash and benches. So I asked DPW for their price sheets on those. But yeah, certainly we will be looking for the, most cost-effective quality item we can procure.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions? No? Okay. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion that the select board authorize up to $65,000 for the completion of Depot Square from the town's UDAG fund.
All right, thank you, Janice. I will second the motion. Roll call the vote. Select Person Livingston,
Aye.
Vice Chair says aye. Motion's passed. Thank you. So that's all we have on the town manager's report this evening, looks like.
Yes, Mr. Chair, that concludes my report. Thank you.
All right, excellent, thank you. So the next item is new business select board member questions, which I had put in a request just to start some initial discussions around the 5-year capital planning and future debt exclusions. Going through capital planning, this was my second go around in the process. And one of the things that I've noticed is on a lot of the larger ticket items, particularly the ones that are large enough to trigger either a debt exclusion or a capital exclusion per the financial policies, there's been a lot of movement to just kind of push those off a year. And while I do understand the desire to minimize the impact on the taxpayers, the concern that I have is when you line a lot of these pieces up over the next 5 years with what needs we think we have or most likely will have, you're looking at just kind of kicking the can down the road. So what I would like to start working with on capital and also with the select board and also the finance committee is planning out our larger expenditures. In the packet, there was a schedule that was put together that shows FY 2023 out through FY 2027 with possible years to have these items such as the Belch Pond Dam repairs. You know, we have the fire engine pump for this year, and then for FY 26 is the fire ladder truck, etc. Because the other factor that's not in this schedule is the school district. So I think when the superintendent does come to discuss the budget, I believe it's prudent for us to really try to get some kind of a 5-year capital plan from the schools. You know, we've been talking for a few years, trying to look at either a rehab of the elementary school, or replacement of the elementary school. That would have a huge factor in our planning on some of these projects going forward, and it would help align our capital needs with the school district going forward. So that's kind of my big thing. I mean, it's interesting when you kind of look at, we got our initial submissions, and I did push Robert to please reach out and just stress with the departments as to what our needs are so we can run the operation smoothly. And there's other, there's certain things that don't necessarily have a specific home, but, for example, office and storage and meeting space for the town. Town hall is at capacity personnel wise. The school district did come up unforeseen infrastructure emergencies, etc. So that's kind of just the initial discussion to kind of get it on the table, that when the school district comes, we should at least start having that conversation with the school district about major capital planning. And then on the capital planning committee side, be looking at, possibly after we finalize the current capital requests, having an additional meeting to start looking at the 5-year forward. Any questions or comments?
Mr. Chair, just very briefly, I think that this is an excellent starting point, and approaching it from the select board, FinCom and capital planning sides is also a good approach. And I did ask, and I'm sure there'll be more info coming from departments. The material you have is just sort of the next sort of 5 years, but I also asked them to submit other potential things that aren't on the schedule. So I will share that with the board And we did ask the regional school district to provide what they have for capital plan. So once I get that, I'll submit that as well.
Thank you. All right. Any other questions or comments? No. All right. Well, thank you everyone for your time. Next item on the agenda is the approval of meeting minutes for December 21st, 2021. I reviewed them, did not have any changes.
I had no issues. So I'll make a motion that the select board approve the meeting minutes from December 21st, 2021.
I will second. Roll call the vote. Select Person Livingston.
Aye.
Vice Chair says aye. Minutes are approved.
And Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
I don't know if I want to second. All right, fine. I'll second that. I'll second.
Don't
the
make me
motion.
find you.
All right, roll call the vote. Select Person Livingston.
Aye.
Vice Chair says aye. Thanks everyone for your time.